All right, welcome everyone to the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Monique, and we have your other host, Uni, here. On today's podcast, we're going to be discussing relationships and in regard to toxicity. Uni and I have been kind of teetering on the topic of when you see like those movies like 365 Days or, 50 Shades of Grey or any other of those books where you see that the male character is behaving in a toxic way, it seems as if women are loving it. But how would it be if this was translated into real life? Would it be something that is scary, or would it be something that people would just consider norm or kind of take as the person being in love? So I'll start in the sense of I was reading I forgot what the name of the manga is, but I was reading a manga where it was about like this boy group. So like, almost like a BTS type of group where it's a Korean band group where they're, from when they were like 16 or something, they were, growing up trying to get themselves established in the arena. And one of the guys actually fell in love with one of the band leader or whatever. And he ended up getting, because he was rejected because, the band leader's like, no, you're young, you're confused, you don't know what what you really want at this age. And he grew up where he felt a sense of abandonment because he was willing just to be the guy's friend, but the guy felt like if he stayed friends with him, it will confuse him even more. Fast forward, they end up getting together, but it was where the guy wanted to know where he was, where are you? Send me a picture of where you are, are you okay? I didn't hear from you, type of thing. And I don't know about you, Uni, but I see this portrayed in a lot of those hit movies, especially on Netflix, where you have this guy that's obsessed with this woman and doing all these things that if it was in real life, it would translate to a restraining order.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
do you think it's cute, or why do people think it's cute? But if it was to happen in real life, it's something that is no longer cute.
I think it's fantasy. Most of it's fantasy if you think about it. So if it's a on movie or it's a celebrity doing some weird stuff, it's like, well, there it's a fantasy world. It's not actually reality because we don't live in their reality. We don't live in that TV or that show. It's scripted. These are actors and everything else. But when it comes to like real life things where, like we have the Barbie and Ken killers where it was the two people in Canada, I believe, and they were this perfect looking family or whatever it was, they got married. He's handsome, she's beautiful, and they're driving around and kidnapping people and doing whatever they want, tying them up, binding them up, and doing whatever they want. But, that was their sexual fantasy and their pleasure and whatever they wanted. So for that, I think that's the reality of things like that. But because it's a fantasy, it's a movie, it's a celebrity, and they have the money, and this is what they enjoy. They go over the top anyways. So I feel like they just feel like it's just a normal thing. But if that was to come across now, it'd be like you're violating me.
Do you think
You're
people are able to separate though reality from fantasy? Because like you said, like fantasy, if you look at what people like, their likes and dislikes is going to vary, right? Where like maybe something that you like, I may think that's just crazy or whatever, vice versa. But do you think that people are really able to separate reality from fantasy?
um I think in this day and age, I think there sometimes becomes people don't want to live in reality. They
Mm-hmm.
want to live in that fantasy world. They want to enjoy. Well, it's my time to enjoy. It's my time to enjoy. But that other person might not be enjoying it. The other person probably isn't. I had experiences. I'm sure maybe you had experiences where their fantasies are outshining what you actually want, and it becomes a discomfort and becomes uncomfortable for you because their fantasy is driven. That that's that's me. I could sue you, that not sue you. I could have you what have press charges on you and things like that. But to them, it's just like, well, people do it and they've seen it on TV or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, you could act that stuff out with somebody who wants to act that stuff out with you, not me. So I don't know. I mean, what
I
do
don't
you?
know. I feel like like I kind of agree with you that sometimes people are not able to separate fantasy from real life, and I feel you have to be careful in a sense of, and I was you know, everyone will get sick and tired of me saying this, but I feel like maturity does not necessarily come with age. So like say for example, if you are not mature in your dating life, you may see someone, you know, doing, because always is always where the guy is handsome, right? Versus if they portrayed a maybe not so handsome guy, everyone will be screaming like, okay, this is not okay, this is not right. But you know, the fact that they use like you know, someone that's overly handsome or whatever in this toxic position, you could have a lot of people that are looking at it like, oh, this is what love is. If a person doesn't you know, they're not asking me what I'm doing every minute or asking me to send them pictures of where I am, or not talking to me every second of the day, or wanting to spend every waking moment with me, then this person doesn't like me. This person doesn't care for me or love me. Or it is the same like if this person doesn't fight with me, then they don't care about me. And I feel like because some people cannot separate fantasy from reality, it does border line where people may think that it's okay.
I mean that happens. Look at You on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, I love her to death, is like, but that's him showing love. And I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, it's a little psychotic, but everything he was doing was to protect her. And I was like, he killed her friends. He killed her friends. Yeah, but they were bad. You could tell that they were bad. I'm like, that's toxic. And she's like, yeah, we know it's toxic, but look how much he cares about her. I was like, he killed her. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But this is what, and I don't think my sister really meant it in that way. I'm pretty sure she would
Never,
have
never. Your sister is very sarcastic, so I could see that she was
sarcastic.
saying something to kind of pull out a conversation out of you, or to
But this
get
is
like a reaction.
the
Yeah.
part of her, though, that we know she fell in love with that character because of those aspects. That fantasy she could fall in love with. I don't think she would fall in love with the reality. If there was a man doing all these things, she'd be like a psychotic. But because it's in this other world, it's in a TV, it makes sense that that is what it is. That's love. Look at him. He even made her book come true. The lady's book came true at the end of the day. It must be love. And it's just like, that's what people are considering what love is. You know, this guy is obsessive. He Look what he's doing. He's doing everything. Like Always Sunny, right? Always Sunny has Charlie, and I love Charlie. I think Charlie's the most cutest man on this earth. But his the waitress that he's after, he literally does everything for her, but behind her back, and she hates him. She hates this man. But the reality is, he takes care of her. And when he stopped taking care of her, bad things were happening to her. Eventually, she came back and she was like, Charlie, you need to do this again. I don't like you. I don't want to be with you, but you just need to do this again. He's like, okay. And he starts doing it all over again. And her hair starts growing back because he was putting things in her shampoo behind her back. They're not together. I don't know if you ever watched Always Sunny.
No, no, no.
So Charlie is this guy. He's a little, and he's in love with the waitress who I forgot her name, but they're really married in real life. And so for years, he's been like putting stuff in her shampoo to make her hair grow. But she doesn't like him. They don't hang out. He sneaks into her house and he does all these things. He watches to make sure nobody takes her bike. He basically stalks this woman, and she doesn't know, but he does all these things to keep her safe. And then eventually he found somebody else and he stopped doing these things for her. And then she realized, like, Charlie has been doing all these things for me. I don't like him that way. Sorry, my cat's being a cat. Um, she doesn't like him that way, but she does appreciate the stuff, the weird stuff that he's done. Like if somebody was coming into my house randomly and putting things in my shampoo to keep my hair growing, I'm
Yeah,
calling the
that's a sense of boundary. Yeah, because even like looking at like remember which the case I was so obsessed with the Chris Watts case.
oh my gosh, you
Where
seeing Chris Watts.
where it's like I'm just wondering, like, say, when does something, even within fantasy, when does it borderline, like, say, fantasy and now a horror, where, like, say, you could probably take the same script, right, and depending on how these characters look, it could either be a fantasy or it could be a horror. Like, it's almost like what do we allow people to get away just because of how they look, just based on someone looks, and it doesn't always have to be handsome, like we were just talking about earlier, like the woman that on Roommates, right, where she was murdering all these people and everything, but because she looked like a sweet old lady and she was donating money to the politicians and everything, people never suspect that she had a history where she was a prostitute, she was actually on parole and all of these things, but just because she fit a certain look, no one really looked into her. So I guess I'm saying this to say that, is it all where we're looking at looks when it comes to certain behaviors, and based on how the person look, if they fit the part, they get excused for certain things.
I think that's a definite thing. We're humans, so we're visual people. So as soon as we meet somebody or walking by somebody, you're not gonna. I had this conversation with Theodore. You're not looking at somebody's personality the first time that you see them.
Yeah, no, you don't. The first thing you see is their looks. Yeah.
It's their looks. So it's the truth. You, Ted Bundy, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
looks at Ted Bundy is this handsome man and everything else. Nobody really suspected him to be a killer. And even when he was a killer and they found out that he was, people still were like, women were still obsessed with this man. And some women didn't even believe that he did these things. And some were willing to still date him. Now, I'm pretty sure, what's his name? Who's the clown killer? The guy that just Gacy. What's his name? I
I
think
don't
people know who
remember.
he is. Um, I'm pretty sure people would have suspect. No, he was actually a good guy too. That was a personality thing. People actually liked him. They actually consider him a good boss and all this other stuff.
But
He was,
but isn't that almost like masking?
yeah, he did a good job because he was, I think, eating people and stuff like that and burying them underneath his crawl space. I don't know why people are just like, I guess that's the easy way of burying people or getting rid of people, is just putting them under your crawl space. But he was like that woman from that other TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think it's a lot of times visual. If imagine me, people are looking at me or looking at you, have not a clue that we probably have plots, tons of plots. Nobody's going to suspect us. Now they're going to suspect us. But nobody would ever suspect certain people of doing harmful things because they looked nice, they dressed nice, they dressed pretty, they, he was
The
handsome, he always smelled good, he
he always said hi to everyone, and
yeah,
one time this person was in a burning house, and he went and he went in there and saved that person. So how can that be an evil
that person
person?
was probably the one that burnt up the house in the first place. There's people who do that. I mean, we have those, what is it, the nurses that are killing people and stuff like that. I'm not talking about all nurses. I'm just talking about they have those who are like, they're good caretakers, but then they kill some people. And it's just like, you don't, it's the way that you carry yourself in society. And people, I think people give more leeway to people who are attractive. Sadly.
Either attractive or they fit the role that they're playing, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad though, because like, say, it's like one of those things where I feel like how things are kind of set up now, you don't really know a person, and it's hard to kind of separate, right? Like, say for example, if this was happening in a movie, this seems nice, but if it was actually happening to you in real life, it would be scary as heck. You know what I mean? Where now you would be probably afraid to go outside because this person's just popping up everywhere. You can't breathe, you can't think, and it's like every single minute it's like you're on guard because you don't know if this person's gonna pop up.
like the what have you watched you watched you?
No, I haven't watched you yet.
Okay, so this is about this man who is probably a sociopath. Had He was abused and everything else. He owns a bookstore. I don't really even know if he really owns this bookstore. It doesn't seem like it. But he is obsessed with this one girl. He's obsessed with this woman, and everything he does is basically a way of manipulating things. He plays like these games in his head and tries to manipulate things so it works out that this woman falls to him. You ever played that game where you put the ball on top and there's pegs and then it falls into
Oh
like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's him. Puts it in, but he pulls out the stupid little pegs so that it falls into place. And that's what people do. Nobody's just going to suspect the guy who works at a bookstore to killing people and all this other stuff. He killed her best friend because he was like, her best friend's a bad influence and all this other stuff, and is keeping her from growing and keeping her from doing all these things. So he killed her. My sister thought that was fantastic.
Really? No, she was trolling you. She
No,
was trolling you.
because it's in the fantasy world, that was good. If that happened in real life, that's not good.
No, that's scary as heck.
Yeah, and he was like, he literally knew that he started picking up running. He started doing a lot of running because the best friend was running. So what he was planning this whole time when he's training himself to run was to run after her and kill her. That was his plot. That's psychotic, to do all of this work just to kill somebody for this girl that eventually he ends up killing
Because what was it? Because he felt like if he couldn't have her, no one could, or he couldn't control her, so he killed her.
I think it was something like that. But then through it all, through the death and everything else, he got her book published, and now he's selling her books at his place. But for him, it was like, but I see, look what I did for you. You still got your book published. You still got recognition.
No, she's dead.
She's dead. She's never going to know. But he did this to her. So that's psychotic. I don't consider that undying love. That's called psychotic. But in the show, women swooned after this man, like in comments and stuff, like, oh, but he's caring and he really cares about her. It's her. She's the problem. Dude, she's dead.
So wait, so why do you think that people gravitate? Because like I said, everyone has their own fantasies of whatever. But my thing, I wonder, is if like say when you read a good book, like say, I remember growing up, like I think in the 90s, like vampires were like the hottest thing, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm sure if you've read an actual someone like, I am a vampire, you're gonna look at them like they're crazy. You wouldn't want to be with a vampire.
I mean, people love vampires, but what are they doing?
No, but what I'm saying is that, but in a sense that you could be like, okay, that is strictly fantasy where, oh, this is nice, vampire sucks my blood, get to live for eternity with this one person or whatever. So I can understand, like, say, maybe there are people that don't feel loved or don't know what love looks like, that in the fantasy, they gravitate to that fantasy. But what I wonder, if this was actually happening to them in real life, would they think something different? Especially now you take a normal looking, like let's say a normal looking guy or a normal looking girl that this is happening. So now would this be a horror movie?
It's sad to say. Certain situations, I think people would feel admired and feel loved by it. Like, I mean, what's his name? Oh, the one that was Marilyn Manson, the Manson family.
Okay.
Like, if you think about it, he never killed anybody. He made everybody kill for him. And for him, that was showing love. And when these people were doing these things, like beating people up and taking their money or murdering people, for them, they were like, well, I'm doing it because I love this man. And the guy is like, yeah, I deserve this. I deserve you guys to do these things for me. That's reality. Some people actually like those things. Some people like that drama. Like, if you think about like a man who has two women, right? And
Yeah.
one finds out that he's messing. A lot of times, for some reason, women don't get mad at the man, they get mad at the other woman, and then they beat up the other woman. And guess what? The man feels,
He feels his ego goes up.
I'm loved, I am wanted, I am needed. This is the reality. Some people enjoy that. They enjoy people being abusive. Sadly, I'm not saying people want abuse. I'm saying some people like that aspect, that you will go to the extent of killing, stalking, um, beating up other people, robbing from them, and everything else, because that's the way that you show love. And that's the way I'm going to get this love, is from you, from being like this, which is, I don't care. It's weird. I'm going to say it. It's weird. It's horrible. That's not love. It's not. But that's the reality. And but then there's the reality of, it's kind of crazy.
No, because like in the sense of, a lot of these situations, you could actually end up losing your life with that. But then I feel like it probably goes back to just like how everyone interprets things totally different. Not everything maybe go back to your childhood, but that could be how they interpreted love. Like for example, like I said, like example, you have, like a lot of these things, they don't have age restriction on it, right? It's where, yeah, they may have a rating or whatever, but doesn't mean that someone that is younger or someone that's not mature in, for example, dating, will see this and say, oh, is that what love looks like? Is that how, if someone does that, how I interpret love? Because just like say how, like for example, you could have a guy that he doesn't seem jealous about anything, and some woman will interpret that as, well, you don't care about me, you don't love me because you don't show jealousy when other guys look at me or talk to me. And it could be vice versa with guys too, where I know I've had that, where like say if a girl talks to him and you don't seem jealous or whatever, it's like, well, you don't love me because you see that this person came up to me and you didn't feel any way about it.
Because I think that's what people want. People want you to be so doting after them. And that's not what love is. It's like, it could, you know what that is? It's called trust. I trust you. I love you enough that I trust you, that I don't care if you're talking to a female. I don't care if you're talking, to the opposite sex or the same sex that
Though there's the sex that you're normally
your
attracted to,
preference
yeah.
is. I don't care because I trust you. And that's a form of love. If you're able to trust somebody, that's, I think, the biggest form of love, to be able to do that. So it's like, okay, if I get jealous, what's the point? I trust you enough to not do these things. I trust you not to cheat on me. I trust you not to hurt me. I trust you not. I think that's what people should base their judgment off of, is trust. Not, are you stalking me? Are you clingy? Are you texting me every 5 seconds? Or are you, uh, I don't know,
Are you
killing the.
telling me, like, I just met you today and you're telling me you're in love with me? It's like one of those things where it's like, yes, in this day and age, you want instant gratification, but that doesn't mean that this is real, or, this is something that is healthy to be happening in the first place.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, we all grew up with some kind of trauma. I don't care how great your life is now. There's some trauma in you. There's a little bit. There's something that happened. Maybe some kid stole your stuffy or something like that. I don't know. But I think a lot of times we have a weird view of love. A lot of us have a weird view of love. And it's fine. If it works, it works. But I think when it comes to obsession, and maybe that's what it is,
That yeah, the obsession, yeah.
if it's obsession, then that's a little something different. That is toxic. Obsession is toxic. Um, you want to be clingy, sure. But if you want to be obsessive with somebody, like, why didn't you text me? Why didn't you call me? Where are you? What are you doing? That I think could turn into something very bad, like a bad situation very quickly.
And I think you have to look into it because remember that meme I sent you, I think it was this week, where it was a cartoon meme where the guy says, I'm gonna text you at 9 p.m. And then it's 9:01 and the girl was like, oh, he chose death, type of thing. It's like one of those things you have to kind of ask yourself, what is it that you're doing? Like why are you feeling this way? Is it that you're bored, you're not busy, you don't have other things going on that are meaningful in your life, that you are wrapped around this one person? Because like say, like I feel like you have some, I don't know, there's this different levels to things. I know, like me personally, I don't like someone that is too clingy. And I don't like people telling me what to do. So, like, say if someone is coming into my life where it's like, oh, you can't hang out with your friends, and start picking at my friends. To me, that's like, okay, you have a motive, and I'm not here for it. You have a lot of things that you need to, you may seem like a nice person, but you have a lot of things that you need to work on. You need to work on that before I can allow you into my life, because I just can't take certain things, you know what I mean? Because like I said, it may seem cute. Oh, this person is calling you all the time. This person seems to know who your friends are and they're telling you things about your friends or whatever. But I just feel like when you transfer that into real life situations, that's when it gets very scary.
I think any kind of clingy, like some people like clingy because that's all they have. I mean, there's people who, it makes me laugh sometimes is people who share the same Facebook. You ever seen those partners?
Oh no, I didn't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's like, well, we're just doing this for the family. I'm not really here for, everything else. So they have like a singular Facebook and they'll say like this person, last name. Like there's some people who just that's the way that they're going to be. I think you need separate lives sometimes. I'm not saying cheating. I'm just saying just have your own
No, something to be your own.
be your own person because yes, you become one, but you've been two different people for a very long time. I think that's obsession to me. I think that's just too much. And I mean, to each their own. There's maybe couple right now watching this and cuddling and snuggling. I think that's just too much for my liking.
Everything, to each his own. But I kind of just would love to see this experiment as like you really take like that you script, right? Change the actor to an ugly ass man. Would this not be a horror movie? Like, what, would these women that are in love with it and saying that how he's acting or behaving is a form of love and all of that, would they really feel this way if this man was very unattractive?
If he was unattractive, there definitely, no doubt, and I'm sorry to say this, people are shallow. He would be considered a stalker and considered a weird guy and a weirdo. If some guy was bondaging you and he didn't look good and he was beating you and making you do things that you probably wouldn't want to do, I'm pretty sure the cops would be at his house tomorrow. That's the whole thing. It's different when there's an attractive man who has money and all this
Oh,
other.
that's another one, looks, money, power.
It's I do you have you ever watched the American Psycho? It's a
No, I
book
have not.
back in the 90s, and here's this guy. I think he's like a stockbroker or something like that. Handsome guy. He just seemed like to me seemed very vanilla. He just seemed like a vanilla man. And but he has this obsession of killing and murdering, and he's like, I have to do it like this and I have to pretend that I'm like this. And you hear his narrations in his head, and he would pay women of the night, or what is it? I guess I'll call them sex workers because that's what they are. And he would pay them money, but then abuse them. And guess what? They're not going to call the cops on him. They're not going to do any of that because he's giving them $500. He's giving them $1,000 to do all these weird, crazy things. Oh, is it happening?
Yeah, it's happening. But you can
Yeah.
finish up and then we'll wrap up.
So for me, it's like if he wasn't an attractive man and he didn't have money, would they have still let him poke and prod and make them bleed and all this other stuff? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. And that's the truth of it. People, I guess the whole thing of this is people will let certain things slide if the person's attractive or have wealth.
And fits the role that they're playing.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining this episode of the podcast. I will just be interested to know, like, say, if you agree with us in a sense of when it comes to those toxic movies and shows that we watch, if those characters were changed out to unattractive people, would a lot of people still, or in your opinion, would a lot of people still gravitate and think that their behavior is acceptable? All right. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.